Hey there, Read 516. This is Dr. Keisler, and I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about your RTI assignment. So I got a bunch of emails over the weekend. We've got a chunk of students who are a little bit confused about the assignment and concerned about the amount of time that you have available to do it. So I've done this assignment quite a few times with students, but when I looked back at my old syllabi, it's been um, about 3 years since I taught the class, or 2 years, I realized that I had more time at the end of each semester for this project with the old version of the syllabus. So, with that, I've decided to modify the assignment. So, I want to show you what we're going to do instead of the assignment as described on the screencast. So, if you haven't viewed the screencast about the assignment, still go ahead and do it and still do the modules because that's going to give you all of the information that you need. I'm just going to change what the final product looks like. So I turned all of these discussion groups into visible groups. So regardless of what group I put you into, you can view any of them. So all of us still need to take a look at the spreadsheet. These are for our first series of students, the first 5 sessions that we had with our emergent readers. And I want you still to take a look at the data for the students and to look for patterns of strengths and needs amongst the students. So all of these students are grades K through 3. You don't necessarily have to group them by grade. Some of you have chosen that as a starting point and then moved students around. But what you're looking for you're looking for things that your emergent readers would need, right? So starting in the beginning and going ahead into the more sophisticated reading skills, I would start with phonemic awareness. I would move to phonics. I would look at my students who are already proficient emergent readers in terms of the fact that they don't have any glaring needs, and I would take them out and not consider them for intervention. So you are looking for students that need intervention, and then you're looking for students who you can then group together for intervention purposes. So this is very similar to what you would have if you were taking on a reading specialist or an intervention specialist position at an elementary school. So you would have students across grade levels that your teachers have identified as students in need of intervention, and then you would be doing more in-depth assessment with them and figuring out how to best use your time and the school schedule to group those students. And so very often those will be cross grade level. So you may have some second and third graders together. You may have some first and second graders together. Usually we don't have a lot of kindergartners at the beginning of the year unless they can't do anything, don't know the alphabet. You might then do things where you spend a little time working on those skills with them. But we're expecting that most of our kindergartners come in needing to learn most of these skills, and certainly the TK, although I don't think we have any TK on here. We don't. Okay. So I want you, if you have not done this, go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet and kind of get a feel for who's in this group of potential students. Then go ahead and look at some of the work that other groups have done in terms of their recommendations. So you'll see as you take a look at these that you guys have grouped these students differently based on what you were looking at. So if I was working on this assignment now, I would go through and I would see what some of my classmates have done in terms of their grouping, right? So you've all put them in groups and you've all given rationales for why you think they should be in those groups. So go ahead and, see if you agree, get some ideas, take a look at the data, and really get a feel for what is represented in that spreadsheet. So this is where I've changed the assignment. So if you take a look in the assignment 5 folder, I've revised the template. So rather than have you working in groups and coming up with interventions for each of the groups, I'm going to ask that you individually choose one group for a tier 2 intervention. Oh, where'd that sheet go? Hold on. Here it is. So you're each going to come up with an intervention plan for just one of those groups. So look at what your classmates have said, look at what your own analysis of the data shows you, and select one group that you believe is a candidate for a tier 2 intervention. If you don't know what a tier 2 intervention is, then you need to go ahead and you need to go back into the modules and you need to go back into your textbook. Your textbook is an excellent reference for RTI, not just in describing what it is, but once you have identified what it is that your students want to work on, remember your textbook in each chapter gives you a section on ideas for intervention. So we didn't really cover the content of that as much, but we focused on the assessment piece. They also give you the instruction piece in your textbook. So it's a very good resource for that. So you are going to be responsible then for completing this template. What I've added is this first page. So I would like you to take the group that you're choosing, and I'd like you to, in about 150 to 200 words, explain to me your rationale for grouping these students together. So explain to me why you put them in a group, what you think the data told you, and why you think they are appropriate candidates for tier 2. And then I'd like you to think about the assessment piece. So I'd like you to, you're not really doing this on the template itself, so I'd like you to describe here, what are the assessments that you use to make your decision? So tell me what you were focused on that spreadsheet. And then tell me how you're going to either use those assessments or other assessments in that area to plan for assessment in the intervention. So here then is your template. So this is a template that I review in the other screencast. And what I need you to do, or what I'd like you to do here, is tell me who is in the group, what your instructional focus is going to be, what that intervention looks like in terms of the time each day, when and where that instruction is going to be provided, the duration of that instruction, so how many weeks, what does the cycle look like, how often you're going to assess them, and then who is going to be providing that instruction. Here, when you give me the focus, is where you can go ahead and you can describe what those actual interventions that you are going to do with the students would look like. If you take a look at the sample that I provided, that example still holds for this revised assignment. So they describe what they are going to do each week, and they give a little bit more detail on exactly what it looks like to focus in that area. So that's going to be the revised assignment. So rather than a group assignment where you have to all come to agreement on how you're grouping the students and then devise a plan, I'm going to have you work on this individually and just give me a sample in that you do it just for the one group. But please make sure that it is a group that is that are appropriate candidates for tier 2. So I don't want you working on tier 3 and certainly not the tier 1 for an intervention plan, but let's focus on just students that you think need a tier 2. So I hope that this takes a little bit off your plate. I hope that this clarifies a little bit for you what you need to do. And then as listed in the checklist and on the syllabus, this will be due at the end of next week.